Support for Radio Friends comes from Le Brunerie Financial, where they work to ensure a lifetime of financial security for people from all walks of life, from investment services to retirement plans. If you're looking for a trustworthy company that has the experience and knowledge to put your interests first, contact Le Brunerie Financial, a community-based investment counseling firm since 1966. Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends on Monday, May the 24th. Pleasure to have you with us today. And it's also a pleasure to have our guest with us today. We've got Walter Bargen. And of course, I've introduced Walter many times on this program. He was the first poet laureate for the state of Missouri. Back in what year was that?
I was appointed in 2008.
Wow, that's a long time ago.
That's a long time
And
ago.
a lot of poems have been flowing from your pen since then, too.
Sometimes it seems that way, but most of the time it doesn't seem that way to me.
Well, I think to your fans it does. Mm-hmm. But today, you wanted to, this being spring, he wanted to do some poems dealing with spring and being on the water, right?
Yes, the celebration of spring and spring on the water, yes.
Yeah. So the first one is what?
It's an experience that I had on the Meramec River where I got carried away with the metaphor that goes all the way through this poem. And someone said, and I don't remember, they said if you eliminated nature metaphors from English poetry, you would eliminate 70% of the poems in English. And probably with me, it would be 90% if you did that.
What's the name?
This is called just Canoeing on the Meramec River.
Okay, so here's Walter Bargen, Canoeing on the Meramec River.
Around the last bend in the river, he turns back to see a cathedral of sycamores and birch, their high green walls leaning over dark pews of water, where fins turn the hymnal of shadows, where gills chant through the slow chorus of current, where crickets are the click of the organ pedal as it springs back past the bark-rough nave, filled with ushers, dressed neatly as kingfishers, dipping down to the sun-struck surface for offerings. They fly up the wide, quiet aisle to a sapling-crowded gravel bar mid-channel, a floating wafer of light against the dark hillside of growth. Caught in rapids, he is swept beyond the next bend that stills in a slow sermon of reflections where he lies back and remembers the one temple for the first time today.
While you were reading that, I was watching a movie. It felt like it was a beautiful spring day, and I could see everything on this massive screen in my mind that you were writing about. All right, that's a good one. You got another one for us?
I do.
And this is from which one of your books?
The one that I just read
Yeah.
is not appeared in a book, and I don't know why, because this poem is from 1983. And this appeared in the Missouri Review.
Okay. But this one, which book is it?
This is in the Body of Water, which is out of print, but you can read many poems from the Body of Water in Days Like This Are Necessary, which is selected poems.
Okay.
And and the poem I'm going to read is kind of a contrast to my experience on the Meramec. And this is an experience on Cedar Creek.
Okay.
I used to love to float Cedar Creek in the spring. I would always wait for a significant amount of rainfall.
So it would come up.
So it would come up, so it would be floatable, because it's not possible to float it year-round, generally. Except if the rain keeps up like this. Do you know how much rain I had in my rain gauge this morning?
How much?
I had 2.5 inches.
Oh.
And yesterday I had 1 3/4 inches.
Okay, now we should mention, people, if you're wondering, this segment was recorded a week ago that you're listening to it. That's when we had all that rain. Mm-hmm. Maybe right now it's sunny as can be. Okay. All right. So,
Okay.
Walter, go ahead. What's the name of this one?
It's called Capsize.
Okay.
And I'm not talking about a cap that you put
I know
on
what
your
you're
head.
saying. Capsizing on Cedar Creek.
Yes. But first we must sink, beat by water, a lateral wave, a slap in the face, a blow to the chest, and overboard. The hoodlum current drags the canoe in its murky pocket, and we hold to what we can, stern, rope, and gunwale, everything else all at once out of reach, hat half riding one wave before going under. Paddles off in their own directions, and blue cooler marking the channel from bank to flooded bank tells us nothing we didn't already know. We watch the small boats of spare shoes heading in legendary one-legged journeys. We're not clinging to a sinking ship. It's sailing beside us, just below the surface, and there's little to do, help not coming, and eyeglasses on the face of the bottom, but to stay afloat, avoid smashing into submerged boulders, shouldering water, listen to the susurration of half-uprooted birch and willows trailing leafy branches under the faint echo of eroding fields. Their rain of silt along the middle hull would strip the skin off our bodies if we stayed long enough to see the crushed light and the dark ooze from under the thick canopy of leaves. After half a mile, we abandon the headlong rush, and feet find footing to pull and drag the canoe out, and hold up our hands in a kind of wrinkled salute, shielding our eyes from the bright oils of survival.
Yeah, and that's a true story.
Yes.
That's a true story. And, it makes you realize the power of nature, because Cedar Creek, like Percy Creek, which runs through my property, when we go into a dry spell, it's just barely trickling. But when we get a lot of rain, it's anywhere between 8 to 9 feet deep, and it is a roaring, rushing river.
Yes. Oh,
and,
yes.
And you can be injured very easily in that.
And we weren't careful because the creek was just about to breach its banks.
Yeah.
And a side creek was coming into Cedar Creek, and its power was so strong, and we didn't recognize
Yeah.
it. A lateral wave hit us and just rolled us over.
What you sit there and you watch the power of that water, you realize the strength of nature. We're out of time. We've got less than a minute, but tell people how they can get your books.
Oh, of course. Well, first of all, this is my latest book.
Yeah, it's
You Wounded Miracle.
and it is a beautiful book.
It is a beautiful book. It
Yeah,
has
it is.
60 color photographs in it. And the only place you can get this at the moment is from me by just sending me an email. And
Okay, and what's your email address?
walter.bargen@gmail.com.
walter.bargen@gmail.com. Send him an email if you would like to have that book. Other ones are available at Yellow Dog Bookstore, right?
Yellow Dog, Skylark, and Barnes & Noble.
Okay. Walter Bargen, thank you so much for coming by. Please come back again. And have yourself a nice day, and be careful on the creeks, the stream, okay? Something you'd like to hear or see, I'd love to hear from you. Pepper P, Missouri.edu. Bye-bye.